Clayton Valley Presbyterian Church. I'm Kathleen. I'm one of the Godly Play teachers here, and I'm glad to have you at our story circle this morning on this second Sunday in Eastertide. Ordinarily, we would start in the sanctuary and spend some time with Pastor Barbara before teachers and the children and anyone young at heart comes to join at the story circle. We're greeted at the door by a teacher, and we're called to the circle one by name. Usually someone at the circle will go to the circle of the church year and move that arrow forward so that we know that we're in this white season of Eastertide. We come back and make ourselves ready. The teacher always greets us the same way at the circle. The Lord be with you. We make ourselves ready in every way we can to hear what's in the story for us today and to be part of it. Whether the story is from the parables or the sacred stories of the scriptures, the Hebrew scriptures of the Old Testament or the Greek scriptures of the New Testament, or it might be a story about how we worship. We want to know where that story can be found because now it's ours. Once we've heard it, we have it forever. And we can take it down when we're in this room to play with it during the work time. Make it ours. And of course, we want to put it back where it goes so other people will find it too. So watch where I go. We're going to look here in these stories of how we tell, how we worship, the stories of our people. I need this whole tray, and it's a little heavy, so I need 2 hands carrying it back to the circle. I can already hear some of you saying, "Oh, I know this story. I love this story." But last time you were different, and so today there's more of you to come into this story. So listen carefully for what might be different today. Purple is a serious color. We always know that purple comes at the time of getting ready. So now that we're ready, let's begin. In the beginning, the baby was born. God chose Mary to be the mother of God. Listen to those words. God chose Mary to be the mother of God. And in the beginning, the Word was born, a wordless child. When the baby looked up into his mother's face, he could already see the cross. When he looked up into his father's face, he could see the cross. The Mother Mary and the Father Joseph held the baby close. They made sure that he had everything he needed to grow. And he grew into a boy. he was about 12. The boy was old enough to make the trip at the Passover with his family and his neighbors to go all the way to the great city, to go to Jerusalem to celebrate. They had the special celebration for Passover. And the next day, when they had finished, it was time for them to go back to Nazareth. As they went through the great gates of the city, all the grown-ups were talking and the children were playing as they walked along the road. And then suddenly, the mother Mary and the father Joseph realized the boy wasn't with them. They looked among the other children that they thought where he was playing, but he wasn't there. And they asked them, they said they didn't know. They were frightened. They hurried as fast as they could all the way back to Jerusalem, and they looked everywhere. They looked in the narrow, twisted streets. They looked at where they had stayed the night before. They looked where they had eaten with their family and friends. And finally they went to the temple, and that's where they found the boy, talking with the rabbis, the teachers. The teachers were listening carefully because the boy knew so much. And the boy was listening carefully to the rabbis because he wanted to learn more. The mother Mary and the father Joseph rushed up to him, and they asked the boy the question that parents always ask and that you can never answer: why did you do this? And he said something odd. He said, "Didn't you know I would be in my Father's house?" Well, Joseph's house was near his carpenter's shop in Nazareth. Mary and Joseph didn't understand, but they never forgot. The boy grew to be a man. And he knew that he was to be a different kind of man, and he went out near the river to find his cousin John, who was only just a little older than he was. You can just see the back of John's head here. John was a wild man. He ate locusts and wore hair clothing. But he was baptizing people in the River Jordan, asking them to cleanse themselves and make themselves new. And Jesus went there and said, "You must baptize me." And when John looked at his cousin, it was as if he saw who he was for the first time. And he said, "No, I can't baptize you. You are the Messiah, the one we have been waiting for." And Jesus said, "No, it's been written. This is the way it should be. You must baptize me." And so John took his cousin Jesus down into the dark waters of the river and brought him into the light. There were people there that day by the river who said that a beautiful white dove came down and flew over Jesus. And there are other people who were there who said they heard a voice saying, "This is my son, in whom I'm well pleased." And then Jesus crossed the river and went into the desert to learn who he really was and what his work would be. spent 40 days and 40 nights in the desert. You know that there's very little to eat and almost nothing to drink in the desert. And a voice came to Jesus and said, if you're so hungry, why don't you turn some of these stones into bread? And Jesus said, no. People need to live by more than just bread. And then it was as if he were up on top of the temple in Jerusalem. And the voice said, why don't you jump and see if the angels will come and save you before you hit the pavement below? And Jesus said, no, we don't tempt God. And then the voice came yet a third time. It was as if Jesus were high on a mountain and could see all the kingdoms of the world. And the voice said, if you will follow me, all of this will be yours. Jesus answered, I am to be a king, but not that kind of king. And the voice disappeared. Jesus came out of the desert and crossed the river and began his work. But what would his work be? Jesus' work was to come close to people, especially, he came close to people that other people didn't want to come close to. Here you can see he's so close to someone that he's touching his eyes. When Jesus came close to people, they could do things and feel things and know things that they didn't feel or know or do before. He went about that work, teaching and healing and helping, and always being close. Not everyone understood. It made some people angry. Who did he think he was? But he came close to the people just the same and continued his work. Once again, it was time for the Passover. And one last time, Jesus entered the city of Jerusalem through the gates. Some people had not been paying attention, and they thought he was going to be their king. Not the kind of king that Jesus knew he needed to be. Someone who was just close to the people. So they greeted him on the road with palm leaves, which was a sign for kings. They called out, Hosanna. But Jesus knew this would be the last time, and so after he spent the first part of the week teaching, and the soldiers were watching him, they too thought that he wanted to be the other kind of king. On Thursday, the soldiers couldn't find Jesus and his friends after they left the temple. They had hurried through the streets, and they'd gone to an upper room where they had supper together for what would be the last time. After they'd eaten their fill, Jesus did something they'd never seen before during the Passover. He took the bread and blessed it and said, "Take and eat this. And when you come together in my name and eat this bread, I will be with you." And then he offered them the cup. He blessed it and said, "Drink all of this. It is my promise to be with you, even to the end of the age." His friends didn't understand. Judas left suddenly. But Jesus wanted to pray, and so the rest of them went out into the garden. When they were finished praying, Judas suddenly reappeared, and so did the soldiers. And that's when they took Jesus. He was arrested. Thursday was a confusing night for Jesus' friends. And on Friday, the soldiers made Jesus carry the heavy cross through the streets. They tortured him, and then they nailed him to a cross. And that afternoon, he died. People said the sky turned dark in the middle of the day. His family, his friends were so sad. They took him down, and his friends took him away and put his body in a cave. The soldiers closed the cave with a stone. And on Saturday, everything was so still. Early on Sunday morning, Mary the Magdalene and the other two women, they were brave enough to go out to the tomb. They were sad, but they wanted to be close. And when they got there, they found the stone had been rolled away. And Jesus was with them in a new way, saying, "Go, tell my friends, tell everyone. I am with you still, and I will be with you always." They ran all the way back. Jesus is risen. The Lord is risen indeed. Now, we can't take these things apart. We can't have this without this. And when we have this, we know we have this. And that's why Easter is filled with joy and celebration and full of mystery. But look, this has a beginning and an end, and we know that's not the way it works. Let's see what we can do. What if we do this? Every end is a beginning, and every beginning is the end. The joy that came from the sadness that changed everything forever. Wonder what part of this big story is your favorite part. wonder what part of this big story you think we need to remember. What part for you is the most important? And where are you in this whole great story that goes on and on forever? The sadness of Good Friday and the joy of Easter morning. So until we come again to this circle, may the Lord bless you and keep you.